If you like this video, make sure to visit our Vimeo page and follow us to get the latest update.
Today's topic is we'll start with actual BW for HANA related topics. And before I start with actual topics for today, I would like to ask, do you have any doubts from our previous sessions?
No, really.
Okay.
Probably what I would need is to get more hands-on.
Yeah, I think correct. Okay. So I think from next week onwards, probably you would be we'll do a couple of sessions, practical sessions this week as well. But I think from the next week onwards, you'll be full on with the actual topic. So I suggest wait for another week after our next week session. Then you can request system access. I believe, if I'm not wrong, you have got the system access for validity for 2 months. So I don't want you to waste the time in the initial topics, because initially we are just learning like a few of the fundamentals and basics. So hopefully when we have covered a couple of topics in depth, then you can actually utilize the system. Okay. Okay, so that's good. Let's start with today's session. Okay, so far we have touch based and covered all the other aspects of SAP BW with regards to the the associated components for BW for HANA, like the previous versions of BW. What is a data warehouse? We have covered. What is an ERP system? We have covered. What is S4 HANA? We have also covered the associated project management methodologies. We covered the what do you say, previous session based on the cloud technologies and so on. So in that way, we have now got, I believe, a fair bit of understanding of everything associated to BW for HANA. And I believe in the previous session, when we covered about HANA, you might have understood what exactly SAP HANA is. As you all know that it is mainly a database by SAP. So we learned about SAP HANA as well, that it's a columnar database, which is an in-memory based database, which has got way faster response time and performance improvements compared to traditional databases. So based on that, SAP has launched few products. So what SAP did was, SAP did not come up with the concept of BW for HANA directly. That was not the first product. So SAP started its journey by introducing a HANA database. What SAP thought that, okay, rather than going for external third-party databases for its application, let us come up with a unique database which is very powerful, strong enough, fast enough to address performance issues of the systems. As we all know that over a period of time, when we start using any application or system or a machine, over a period of time, the data grows very rapidly, especially in IT space. We know that the data grows exponentially. It is not sequentially, but the growth is exponential. And that is the case with any of the transactional OLTP system. Not only OLTP system, even with OLAP systems as well, the data grows very rapidly. It grows at a very fast pace. So SAP was struggling a lot with regards to database issues and performance issues, and then they come up with the idea of introducing a newer database which is fast enough to address all those problems. So the first logical step in SAP's business was to introduce HANA as a database. And SAP tried a lot initially. I remember my interaction with SAP folks when I was working with our clients. I was working always for a SAP implementation partner. So most of my experience was with working for an implementation company who was an implementation partner with SAP. So whenever SAP used to interact with the customers, they always used to sell HANA. Even though HANA was not mature at that time, there were lots of ambiguities, but still SAP was trying very hard from the day one early to 2010 onwards to sell HANA to its customers. They they were as well successful in promoting HANA and then they build an ecosystem around SAP HANA. What they did was after the advancements in HANA, HANA was solely sold as a database and also to store the data. Initially, when HANA was sold, SAP sold HANA as a database to capture the data from various sources and build reports on it. Not even as a ERP product. It was not even used for uh, you know uh, as a replacement for a database for SAP's products. It was sold as a separate, uh, isolated database. And the intention when SAP sold that as a database was to bring the analytics into the HANA database, perform the calculations there, create some views, calculation views, aggregation views, analytical views, and then publish reports on top of it. And in that way, you do the data processing faster. That was the whole idea. Later on, SAP, uh, introduced HANA as a database to SAP S4 HANA. And once they started introducing S4 HANA in SAP ERP space as a database, they also brought some new concepts along with the HANA database introduction. They thought that, okay, the application which they were building for so many years, like SAP ECC or ERP, SAP, that application grew very fast, and it also introduced plenty of functionalities into the application uh, over a period of time. So over a period of time, there were heaps of developments into the software. There were heaps of new features which were added into the tools. And what happened along with those introductions, the complexity of the software grew and the application became very, very complex. For instance, lots of features were introduced in ERP space, and the ERP application itself became very complicated. Likewise, in BW world also we will see that, over a period of 20 years, from 1998 till 2000, you might have noticed that you will notice that SAP introduced heaps of new features, and the tool and application BW application became very, very complex. Now with the HANA, the idea of SAP was also to bring simplification to the tools which are there in the market. For instance, with with S4 HANA, S stands for simple. Okay, S stands for simple. SAP, and bringing the simplicity to the fourth generation of SAP R3, which is S4, and then it's based on HANA database. Likewise, for BW, they wanted to keep the similar naming convention. They said, okay, it's BW4 HANA. So it's not a fourth. Actually, it's in BW world, I won't say it's a fourth generation. If you ask me, I would say this would be third generation for me, if you ask in the BW space. So when BW was introduced in the market, uh, the first major changes came to the BW, I would say, in the BW7 world. Prior to BW7 world, okay, there were minor changes introduced to the software or application. And after BW7, then obviously, that is, those days it was known as BI7. Then SAP introduced HANA, so BW was on HANA, and then BW for HANA is the next level. So the naming convention, SAP wanted to maintain, consistency across the tools, its tools. Hence, they mentioned that, okay, it is BW for HANA. Now, one thing you need to understand: anything which says for HANA means that it's a limitation in the software, that it cannot work on any other database apart from HANA. When you talk about S4 HANA, that's the only database it can work on. Likewise, BW for HANA is again BW system on HANA database. Okay, you don't have a flexibility to go and pick and choose some other database. Now, what is BW for HANA? It's again nothing but BW system, but on a HANA database. Along with the HANA database for BW, SAP also brought lots of new changes into it. So the tool, SAP's idea was to bring simplicity or simplifications to the tool. So SAP introduced some new changes to BW for HANA. Now compared to BW on other versions, previous versions, BW for HANA is totally different. The way we build the objects are different. Majority of the objects which we build in BW for HANA are different in the sense we use a different platform. We need to use HANA Studio to create the objects in BW for HANA. We can't use our traditional RSA1, which we used to use in BW. That is not you know that is not the actual administration workbench tool which we can use now. The tool which we used to use through SAP GUI, that is RSA1T code, BW administration, we can't use the BW administrative workbench now anymore through GUI. All those tasks what we used to do, modeling tasks, we have to do it now, modeling task through HANA Studio. There is a still GUI. I'll talk about that in detail. But now, in short, for you folks who have no idea about especially for James and Ken, I would say that now this is the latest version of BW. BW for HANA is the latest version on a HANA database. Okay. Otherwise, the functionality of the database, data warehouse still remains the same. It's still a data warehouse application. It still, is used to do the enterprise-wide reporting. It is still used. It still can be used as a enterprise data warehouse, EDW. Okay, now it's a new product and it's on HANA database. Now what I did is, sorry about this, there was like some screenshots which I captured from lots of places. My intention was not to miss any critical important points. So the way I built my material is I'm not restricting my material to actual ZaranTech's official material. I wanted to cover lots of topics. So if I cover just ZaranTech material, will be I would say the official material of ZaranTech, then we would be limiting to very limited slide decks. But my intention here is to cover all the areas in detail and show you maximum topics whichever I can. So some of the slides are not appealing with regards to aesthetics. So aesthetics, I'm just giving least preference at the moment. I don't have time to format and beautify those slides. Okay, so I would say that in the future sessions also you might come across some of the slides which are copied from somewhere and they might not be as appealing from the aesthetics perspective. But none of the material is confidential. Everything is publicly available. You just Google it, you will find here or there, wherever it is. It's just publicly available material. So there is nothing as such a copyright material as well. So you get it from the Google. So it's the same material captured from different sources. That's it. Okay, now there is a one question now. This is very widely used. We have S4 HANA. S4 HANA is a very powerful ERP system of SAP. And S4 HANA is also on HANA database. And when we have S4 HANA system, we can do reporting in S4 HANA as well. There is a concept called as embedded reporting in S4 HANA. So there's always a question which comes to our client's mind that, I have S4 HANA, then why do I need to go for BW for HANA? Most of the customers, they might come to you and ask, what is the purpose? What is the benefit of maintaining another system when my S4 system is also on HANA database? Okay, so probably I would like to ask question with either Rakesh or Rupa. What do you think, Rakesh or Rupa, like based on your whatever understanding of the tool, what do you think? Why do we need to go for these application, BW for HANA application when we have S4 HANA? What would be the differentiation factor?
Yes, so one of the differentiation factor and what I see is even though we have S4 HANA, I mean BW embedded in S4 HANA, we can use it for embedded analytics, but it doesn't mean that we dump everything to the embedded BW, because there is a high chances of the performance degradation in S4 HANA as and when the data gets increased. So we need to have data warehousing in place wherein it can interact with multiple sources.
You're spot on. I think you gave the exact answer which I was intending to explain to the class. So thanks very much, Rakesh. That's the, I would say, core reason to go for BW for HANA. So I want to reiterate for the better understanding of the other folks in the class. See, we can do reporting in S4 HANA itself, and it allows us to build embedded reporting. And in fact, my preference, if you ask me, if there is a requirement for me to build a report on the data which is solely present in S4, my preference would be to as a BW architect, if you ask me to build the solution or write a strategy for reporting, I would prefer to build reports in S4 HANA itself using embedded analytics if the entire data of the report lies in the S4 system itself. Now, what is the benefit of going for building the reports in S4 HANA itself rather than bringing to BW is, if you use the embedded analytics and if you build the report where the source data solely lies in S4 system, then the beauty is that you don't have to duplicate the data. You just create a virtual data model on top of the data set. You create a view, which is CDS view, and then expose the CDS view to any of the reporting tool. That's it. You got your solution without even duplicating the data. Now, the other beauty is you don't have to worry about data loads. There is no concept of data loading when you are building a when you are building a report which is built on a virtual data model. You don't have to worry about inconsistencies of data between a source system and the reporting system, because both the source system and the reporting system are one and the same if the data is coming from only one system, which is S4 HANA system. My preference, as I said, from the strategy perspective, if there is only one system from which I need to bring the data, I can very well write CDS views code and then connect. There are I don't even need to write CDS views. There are hundreds of standard CDS views which I can consume to build reports on them. Okay, that would be my focus. Now, as you mentioned, for large organizations, the entire data is not available in S4 HANA. We have various source systems from which we need to pick the data. And just for the sake of dumping the data into the S4 HANA, just for the sake of reporting, just for the sake of building the analytical reports, if you want to dump the data from various source systems into S4 HANA, then that is not the right strategy, because we are causing unnecessary load on the transactional process system. Is it clear? Hence, we need to go for a dedicated reporting system, analytical processing system such as BW for building the enterprise-wide reports. Does that make clear sense? Ken and James, it's more for you, this expression. Are you guys able to follow me?
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's see the differences between BW on HANA and BW for HANA. Just we'll see the differences now. So this is something we will go through now. The differences between our BW on HANA system versus BW for HANA. Sorry about my slide deck. I think accidentally I wrote S4 HANA. It's wrong. It is BW on HANA. So I am referring to, in this slide, I am referring to basically I'm referring to for this slide, I am referring to what, the previous version of BW, which was on HANA database. I don't want to get into the differences too much, but still, just to give you a bit of overview, there are newer objects in BW for HANA compared to BW on HANA. Both are on HANA databases, but the way the landscape, the architecture which is built in BW for HANA is simpler, faster, and with regards to a number of objects which are available in the system are lean in BW for HANA. Hence, there is there is a preference for all the customers of SAP who are on the previous versions of BW to go for BW for HANA. And in fact, if I have to be unbiased, having worked in this same technology for almost 2 decades, I would say that this is one of the best version of BW system which is there in the market with regards to functionality and ease with which we can build the objects. So the development time, I would say, can be definitely from my experience perspective, I would say we can develop the objects in less than half of the time what we need to, or what we used to do take for actual core development activities, not the complete project schedule. But if you are talking about just building the objects, the core development activity time, I would say it would take less than half when we are going for the BW for HANA version compared to the previous. Obviously, the time to capture the requirement, the time to do the testing, the time to move the transports, and the time to do the cutover and everything, that remains the same. But actual development activity time would definitely be reduced when we go for BW for HANA. There are a couple of things which I would definitely like to highlight here. One is we don't have to go for multiple objects like ODS, InfoCube. In BW for HANA, we have only one object, ADSO. We use ADSO to build the objects in BW for HANA. The other thing which I like here is we have something called as a data flow modeler tool. We can use a data flow modeler to connect the objects and build the objects using drag and drop features in BW for HANA. And obviously, instead of multi-provider, we have something called as composite provider. We will go through all the objects one by one, so it is good. And as I said, we don't have a modeling tab in RS7. We do modeling in Eclipse. So especially for Rupa and Rakesh, you might be aware now by now that we can't do modeling in RS7. RS7 T code is still available in BW for HANA, but the modeling tab is missing there. Okay, you can't do modeling. And as I said, if you ask me, I'll be very honest. I foresee the successor of this particular tool, which is BW for HANA. Maybe I might be a little bit wrong, but I have a very strong gut feel that this would definitely be replaced by SAP data warehousing on cloud. So the successor for this particular tool would be a cloud-based application, which is I would say in its infancy stage. The BW SAP BW software, which is on cloud version, name is SAP Data Warehousing Cloud. And I'm pretty sure down the line after 3 years to 5 years, majority of the customers would prefer to go for the cloud-based application. And the benefit of going for cloud-based applications would be that SAPs would take care of doing the integrations with all your source systems. You don't have to build connections yourself. You will use readily available connections to link with any of the source systems. Okay, so and also in BW for HANA, especially for Rakesh and
not like drowning.
The BW for HANA does not have the SAP based extractors. We have ODP based extractors. So we have a newer type of data extraction mechanism. The beauty of ODP based extractors is that these extractors actually are not built on tables. These extractors refer to CDS views. Those CDS views in turn are referring to base tables. See, in our previous extractors, the standard extractors which are SAP based, we used to the extractors used to refer to the source base tables. Here, SAP introduced a newer layer of core data services. Okay. So we will go through all these things one by one. I don't want to confuse you. And also there is something called as BW cockpit for administration activities. Even our process chain maintenance. Have you guys worked on support projects in past? Rakesh and Rupa?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, yes,
So,
yes,
so,
yeah.
so activities related to like RSPCM and stuff. We have a newer, I would say, a newer GUI, which is a newer tool, which is a browser based called as BW for cockpit. We will use that for this activity. We will go through that as well. So there are a few new features. We'll go through it. But apart from this, I think for you, especially for whatever I have mentioned, apart from these features, there are not actual any major features which you will see in this particular course. There are a few things which you would come across, like we will touch base on the migration activities, how we do the migration, and then we have something called as a data tiering mechanism. So these are the few things which we will touch base, but the core of differences lies in the actual build and development of the objects which we used to do in BWs on HANA or BW 7.3 or the previous versions. So that is where we will spend a lot of time on actual building of the objects so that you understand the core differences. And then there are a few minor things which we can't do practicals, like the migration and transports and stuff. Those things, I think you can pick it up very easily. Okay, let us go through the other slide, which I was talking about. As I said, as the software grew over a period of time, SAP introduced lots of new features. And I have worked a lot on the previous version of SAP, wherein we used to have the concept of update rules and transfer rules. When SAP introduced in BI 7 the features of DTPs and transformations, it was a very big improvement with regards to data load process mechanism. And along with that, SAP kept on introducing some new objects like composite provider, hybrid provider, semantic partition objects, data flow. To be honest with you, I did not like when SAP introduced these many new objects. I always still felt, being a member of the old school, I felt that okay, having the simplicity in my data model is the key. When there was a concept of LSA architecture wherein we were asked to have 7 different layers, it did not make any sense to me. And I have worked for a particular client in Asia Pacific region. One of the client which was running the railway business, they had really adopted 7 different layers. They wanted to just simply duplicate the data just because SAP mentioned that okay, we can have virtualization layer, we can have data propagation layer, we can have data ingestion layer, we can have transformation layer, so many things. I believe you guys are familiar with LSA architecture, right? Rupa and Rakesh.
Yes, yeah.
What was your opinion like? Did you blindly adopted the architecture proposed by SAP to have those many layers in your flow?
I mean, not completely, Ian, but definitely there were certain stages wherein we have to have some sort of duplicacy, because especially when we have to store the raw data, which we call a staging layer, and from there we have a corporate layer wherein we maintain the history for last 2 years or 3 years depending on the business requirement. And then PSA is one of the place wherein the data duplication happens, because whatever we store, right? Yeah. So
it's a raw data repository, correct?
Correct. So, but in process chains, we had created process chain wherein it will delete the data for last 1 month and all. We added certain steps to avoid the growth of data. Yeah.
Yes, obviously I agree with you. Even I don't say that we have to avoid all the layers and just have one layer. But personally, when I designed the solutions, my preference was always to have a lean flow as much as possible. Obviously, considering this concept of having the uh, you know the persistent layer in place. So strategy was to always my strategy was to have as many minimal layers as possible. Obviously we need to have 2-3 layers depending on the client requirement, depending on the source systems from where we are bringing the data. If we have to do the transformations at different layers, so we need to have different objects in place in between. So that was my intention. Now for both James and Ken, I want to say that with BW for HANA, we have simplified a lot with regards to how we load the data. You will understand this when we do the practical what I'm talking about, and I will also reiterate when I build a data model in BW for HANA. So keep in mind, I would say something which I believe you would definitely appreciate when you start working on the project in real time. I have seen that clients always prefer when and like the solution when you keep your solution very simple. You have to have minimal complexity in your solution. I personally avoid unnecessary introduction of ABAP for during the solution. I was always strongly against that, because I have seen those developers who come from ABAP background, without even thinking for an option using the standard features, they would just simply start writing the code and try to achieve the solution, which I personally don't like it. And I feel that it's unnecessary complexity, introduction of complexity to the solution, so which we need to be mindful of. So with BW for HANA, we try to avoid all those things. We try to keep as close to standard data flow as possible. Okay. So it's just for you to be aware that which version of BW is being supported till when. But again, don't worry about the dates. It's not your headache. It's client's headache to ensure that they get the support of their product. So we don't have to worry about all those dates as of now. Okay. What are the different versions of HANA DB? HANA is currently on 2.0 version. Um, and then what SAP source systems does this support? It supports ECC, ERP, any source system. So our BW for HANA can be used in conjunction with any source system. You name a system, you can extract the data from that particular source system. It is not SAP ECC or SAP ERP. Primarily, BW systems are used to extract the data from SAP R3 or SAP ECC or SAP OLTP systems. And I would say 80 to 90% of the data which resides in BW come from that particular system. But there are some exceptions wherein the client might not even have SAP as a source system. We have to go for some other system. In my previous project, I worked on SAP Analytics Cloud. The client did not had SAP R3 or SAP S4HANA. They had some legacy system, and for the legacy system, it was a non-SAP system. The solution we came up with was we brought the data from legacy system and kept it in SAP HANA Cloud, build the tables in HANA Cloud, store the data from the legacy application, maintain the data in SAP HANA Cloud, and from SAP HANA Cloud, expose the data into data models in SAP Analytics Cloud. So on HANA Cloud, we build the not only store the tables, build the views, calculation views, and those views were exposed to reporting tool data model. So those views were consumed by the data model of SAP Analytics Cloud, and then the actual reporting solution was built in SAC. So what I was saying here is, it is not necessary for a client to go for always have SAP as a source system. You might be sometimes extracting data from non-SAP source systems as well. And do you still have the option of Hello Cockpit? Yes, Hello Cockpit is still available. We extract the data using Hello Cockpit. We will go through this. So what we can do is, when I have an Hello Cockpit session, probably if you guys, especially Rakesh and Rupa, if you want, you can attend that session. If you want to skip that class, you can skip that class. When we come to that particular topic, I will let you know when we are going to teach, when we are going to learn about Hello Cockpit. But if you want to be part of the session, you're more than welcome. You can share your knowledge and stuff. Okay. So as I said in the just now, that we have a newer concept of data sources based on ODP extractors, and these ODP extractors are based on CDS views. We will learn a little bit about CDS views. And when we used to extract the data, enhance the data sources, standard data sources, um, using RSAP 0001. Even with the BW on HANA, SAP started recommending to go for baddies. Now SAP says that for BW for HANA, any enhancement to the data source has to be done only using baddies. So are you good in writing a BAP code? Rakesh, can you write, edit baddies?
Bad is no, Ian. Not
Okay.
worked on
How
baddies.
about Rupa? Are you familiar?
No, I'm like
Okay.
BW related about yes, but Barry, I'm not that.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. Fair enough. So, so if for Ken and again James, probably what we might need to do is, if we have a exclusive requirement on a project to write some code, we also take assistance from our fellow developers in the team, from the technical team called as ABAPers. They would help us in writing the code. We just tell them the requirement that, okay, I need to pick this field, that field, and so on, and then we can then enhance the standard extractors. Okay. There is another option which most of the I have seen on HANA projects. Most of the uh, most of the developers are preferring. The other option was is we build a complete new view, either it's a calculation view or CDS view, and consume that view in the BW. Okay, so you don't even touch the standard extractor. So that is another way that data is being extracted into BW for HANA. We will learn about this. I don't want to again confuse you about AMDP, CDS views and stuff. We'll go through this. So the way the extractors in the previous version of BW was, we used to read the data from base tables. Okay, so these are the tables. We directly used to build extract the data from base tables. Now instead of base tables, with the BW for HANA, we have got a new layer which is called as virtual data model. These are actual CDS views. So these CDS views are exposed to the data sources. So this is something we will again learn in detail when we do the actual extractions. And CDS views has got its own syntax. That syntax for writing the CDS views is known as annotations. Um, there are again two types of views there, composite and basic. So these are the few things which you need to be aware of if you want to edit or enhance the CDS views. Okay. Obviously, this is not a session about HANA or CDS views. I'm not going to cover all those things in this session. That won't be feasible. That I will be teaching you all those enhancements and stuff to CDS views. But anyways, whatever possible, I will try to show you in depth. Future direction, all the extractors would be switched to CDS views. And one thing which SAP is planning to do or introduce in future applications of BW for HANA and future source systems is that as soon as someone creates a CDS view, a corresponding data source would be generated or can be used as a data source in BW for HANA. So automatic generation of data sources planned for every CDS view creation in the system. Uh, Is GUI used? Still, yes, GUI is still used for business content activation and transport. So these are the two main activities we use GUI still in BW for HANA. But I have a feeling that in subsequent releases of BW for HANA, SAP will totally eliminate the usage of GUI. It would be completely, in fact, it won't be HANA based, but it would be web IDE based. So you would, it won't even HANA Studio. It would go to a browser based application. So we are still using a thick client, which is HANA Studio for our creation of objects. Future moving down the line, SAP will try to steer away from thick client to thin client, like browser based applications. You will just use a browser to access the system. That's it. That would be the future, Fiori based applications. Okay. Again, there are lots of contents which are reiterated throughout the slides, subsequent slides. I don't want to go through it. I will I'll just quickly go through the key points. So as I said, BW for HANA is a separate product, which is not part of NetWeaver delivery. So the previous version of BI was something which was introduced along with the NetWeaver client. So we had ABAP client, ABAP stack, and Java stack. Now we don't have any more Java stack anymore in BW for HANA. So everything is ABAP based again. See, the objects which are created in BW for HANA are ABAP based. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, we have seen this again. It's a data warehousing system on HANA platform. It has got some pre-templates as well with regards to business content and stuff. It's agile, it's flexible, it is faster, it is based on something called as LSA++ architecture. Okay, HANA system is attached to BW because we can share objects. Okay, the good thing here is those who have spent a lot of time, especially the HANA developers, creating the calculation views and stuff, they can still, because BW is on HANA database, what they can do is they can go to the in the HANA Studio, they can go to the HANA perspective and create the objects. So they can create the HANA views, and those views can be consumed in BW. So in the background, you can also introduce your objects at the database level as well. So you introduce your objects using the application layer, which is BW for HANA. You push down the objects. You can also generate the objects directly at the database layer as well. So people prefer, those who are from the strong SQL background, they would prefer to minimize the complexity of the solution by writing the complete code in SQL and then addressing all the complex requirements at the view level itself. Okay, so that is also feasible in BW for HANA. It's a next generation SAP product on a HANA database. There are some features. Okay, cloud platform, HANA. Sorry.
Sorry to interrupt. Even like you mentioned, like the calculation views we have, right? That's just a doubt. Like on top of that, can we do reporting, or on top of that we can do some more, build some more logic and then use that for reporting?
See, in BW for HANA, we don't directly consume calculation views for reporting, because then you lose the traceability. It's always advisable to use the calculation view as a source, okay, persist the object somewhere in BW for HANA, or use the virtual data model if you want, using the open ODS view, and then expose it to composite provider, and then from there consume it. So my preference would always be, if I am going for BW for HANA as my reporting solution, then I would prefer to have something in my persistent object, which is advanced DSO in BW for HANA. That would be my preference. However, there is an option, you can go for virtual data models as well. But exposing direct calculation view to a reporting tool from the traceability perspective, it's not the right strategy. Technically, yes, possible, but not the right approach. Welcome. Now, product overview of BW for HANA. We have seen the journey. Again, I don't want to go through the dates and stuff. Okay. This is how the BW was evolved. I think we have seen previously in the previous slide. And this is the introduction of BW on HANA. When BW on HANA was introduced, it was also known as powered by HANA. Then they changed the name to BW on HANA. Okay. So when they introduced initially, they said that, okay, it was BW, which was powered by HANA database. Then they say, okay, on HANA database, and then it's a BW for HANA. And these are the timelines of each of the versions of the BW. For James and Ken, what happens is when SAP's products, whether it is BW or ECC, it has got something called as a support packs. Okay, and what the support pack does is SAP introduces some small features. There's something called as a feature pack and support pack. So when you see SP04, it's support pack version 4 on 2.0. I think it's version 5 was the one which was there in the market. I'm not sure whether version 6 is there currently or latest or not. So I knew the previous batch which I conducted was on version 5. I think still the current software version we are using, which you will use, is on support pack version 5. Okay, what I'm not sure is that the latest one in the market. I don't know. So it's just the versions. So for instance, if you know that in iOS in Apple, I believe the 15 is the latest one. So then you will have something called as 15.01 or 15.03. That is the smaller change of features which you would see in the latest one, or it could also be used for bug fixing activities. Okay. We have seen these dates, we have seen these objects. I think it's getting repeated. I don't know. I'm going into what, like loop or what? Okay. Okay. There is some question people might ask. Okay, we are already using BW 7.5 or BW on HANA. Why should we go for BW for HANA? Again, it's a SAP's marketing strategy. Obviously, if your customer is having, I would say, a properly organized solution with stable reporting, then if you ask me as a implementation partner, okay, I have a very good, let me put it in this perspective. If someone is going for a new car, brand new car, and you also had a old car which is just 2-3 years old, or if you have a phone which was purchased last year and you want to go for again a brand new phone this year, you can make a call. Do you really need to go for a newer phone in 1 year in case you have purchased a phone last year? Are these features value for your money? This is the question the client would think. And if you ask me as a honest advice, I don't think if the existing BW 7.5 is working fine without any issues, and there are not many major challenges, then going for a newer investment in BW 7.5 really doesn't make sense. Maybe over a period of time down the line after 3 years, maybe yes. But if you ask the same question with someone from SAP, then they would say that yes, you have got lots of benefits. There's openness, there's this, that. I do understand that there is benefit, but do we have, a true business case to invest that much? Does that really justify the investment cost? That's up to the client. Okay. Obviously, there are a few things like openness, which is it's easy to connect. The user interface in BW for HANA is better. It has got high performance. There are some legacy features which are not possible in BW for HANA. You don't have option to connect your BW for HANA to BEX Analyzer anymore. But you have got a newer tool which is called as BW Query, which you can use in BW for HANA. So for both Rupa and Rakesh, you don't have BEX anymore. But what SAP did is they renamed it. They said, okay, we are introducing a new query tool, BW Query. Now, instead of having BEX through GUI, and we used to access BEX as a separate thick client. Now the BEX features, whatever we used to have, now are available via HANA Studio. We don't have to then install a separate. We used to have something called as BEX add-on. When we used to build BEX reports as a BW developer, we needed to install BEX add-on, choose BEX as an add-on in our GUI. Do you remember? Now that is not required anymore in BW for HANA.
Okay.
Okay. So again, there are a few features which we will see. These SAP extractors are not anymore. They are moved to ODP based extractors. BI content, there is a new content available for BW for HANA. PSA and info package are not there anymore because there is no no PSA, no this. There is no info package concept there. Everything is via DTP now. Okay, there is no concept of info package in BW for HANA. And which is again another step forward to bring the simplification. The big picture is like this, so it's a very good diagram for someone to understand how the data warehouse system revolves. So the right side, I would say, is our BW for HANA system, which is on the gray box, data warehouse. The left side is a raw data repository, data lake, and Hadoop concept. Again, I was going through some article by Bill Inmon, who is known as the father of data warehouse. I was reading one of his article, and he criticized the usage of data lake. He said the concept of having a data lake is a big hassle for an organization, because if you just try to bring the data and put it into the data lake as a raw repository, that's not the right architecture. Then you need to then, when you bring the data, and then when you have to normalize and understand the data, again, it's a very painful journey to utilize the data which is stored in the data lake. Okay, so we will come about this, what is data lake, what is these things in our subsequent classes. I do not again confuse you, but this is the way the data warehouse is structured and designed. Okay, you can bring structured and non-structured data in data lakes. Now, again, SAP, as I said, there are lots of product managers, and SAP says that, okay, you can still use SQL data warehouse, you can use BW for HANA data warehouse. If you ask me as a architect, BW architect, I don't want to have any additional complexity in my solution. What I would prefer to do is, whatever complexity is there, I want to maintain only in one system. I don't want to go for native HANA database and store some data there and some data here, and then report partial reports from native HANA, partial reports from BW HANA. Doesn't make sense. Imagine that if you ask me in layman terms, I will explain like this. Imagine that, say, you are having your house goods split across two houses in maybe side by side, or maybe spread across two different locations. If that is the case, you can imagine how difficult it would be for you to organize your stuff, manage your activities. Likewise, if my data is spread across two different databases, managing them in two different user interfaces using two different technologies is a cumbersome activity. I would strongly disagree with this kind of layout and approach. Do you understand why I'm saying this, right? I believe both Rakesh and Rupa can correlate my thoughts, correlate with my thoughts, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is again faster, quicker, leaner, and so many things we can do it in the database layer. We have multi-tenancy and stuff. Again, if you try to understand each and every concept which is there in this, there are lots of slides from the SAP marketing slides. Obviously, these are the features which are available in BW for HANA, but you don't really have to go through each one of them and try to break your head. Leave it. in short, I will tell you what it can do is just talk about the bottom part, database management. In layman terms, I would say that, okay, BW for HANA is so strong, you can connect your BW system to, I would say, literally any source system. You can bring any sort of data from any source system and store it into BW for HANA. This is the database management. The second thing is application development, user interface. You have better user interface like Fury based applications. You also have machine learning capabilities in the HANA database. You can do text analytics, so on, predictive analytics, and so on. So HANA database supports that. And analytical processing, machine learning, all those things can be possible. Practically, I haven't seen any business case wherein we do in BW for HANA these activities. We have a dedicated tool in SAP Analytics Cloud for machine learning activities. We have a cloud based application SAC, or we have a standalone SAP predictive analytics tool. Why do we need to go for that? And to be honest with you, compared to SAP predictive analytics tool, there are other powerful predictive tools available in the market. They are far superior than SAP predictive tools. Like, you just go and use the R or Python based language tools which are there in the market for this
I'm sorry,
analytical
Ian.
processing activities. Yep, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I have a emergency. I gotta leave the class, so probably I'll join tomorrow morning. But I'll when I get a chance, I'll play the video. And
Sure, we are not going to anyway. We are not going to cover any practical today. We will just wrap up in next 5-10 minutes once I go through the slide. So my intention is to cover the practicals today, and tomorrow, don't miss tomorrow's session. Tomorrow we'll go through the hands-on session. Okay, immediately we'll start with the hands-on topics tomorrow. It's very important. And as usual, our 6 a.m. your time.
Yep, sure. Thank you very much,
Okay.
and I'll see you tomorrow.
Yep. See you.
Bye
Bye-bye.
bye.
So you guys are okay to continue for another 15-20 minutes, right? Rest of the team.
Yes, fine for me.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes.
So we will try to cover as much as possible from the theoretical perspective, and we will try to wrap up the session after that. Okay. So in short, it's a very powerful tool. It can do lots of activities with regards to bringing the data, storing the data, and exposing the data for consumption. Okay. Again, this was something which SAP mentioned that, okay, you use and leverage SQL for HANA based activities. You use BW for HANA for this. Obviously, SQL is a powerful language, and you use it to build any requirements in the HANA database. My suggestion would be, if you want to do that, create the views if it is needed. And obviously now we have AMDP. Rather than creating something in SQL based use, my preference would be to go for ABAP managed database procedures, AMDP, and use that to build CDS views and then expose them into BW. The bigger picture, what we do, this is what is the how the BW tool would look like. The top part is the external objects, hence it is the dotted line. But the rest of this is the actual core BW for HANA system. Okay, all these activities we can do in BW for HANA. It comes with so many capabilities. Now planning would be as an add-on on top of BW for HANA, and then you can also do planning in SAP Analytics Cloud as well. Both the tools will support the planning activities. Still, I think consolidation is not possible in SAP Analytics Cloud. We still have to go for BW based planning application for consolidation activities. Now, what is BW for HANA system? We have a database to manage the database activities. We have modeling tools. We use the HANA Studio to do that. We have a metadata repository. We have actual core storage options using the data layers. And then we have analytical manager for analytical processing for the BW query stuff. Once we have our queries, we expose the queries to. It's no different to what we have been doing. It's one and the same. The only thing is we don't have option to see the query in a separate tool. Instead of that, we see the queries and the solution in, we build the queries in HANA Studio. We see the queries in either RSRT, the output of the query we see in RSRT, or we see through a browser. That's the only difference. Okay. User interface, strategic product, again it's one and the same. We have archiving methodology here for data storage, data tiering. So the data which is not commonly used, we can archive into external cheaper archiving options like Sybase IQ or Hadoop. So Sybase IQ is also known as SAP IQ now, and Hadoop. So these are the cheaper data storage options. We have various source systems. So Hadoop is again a big data source system provider. SAP Vora is the connector. We require to connect to the big data system. So we need a SAP Vora connector to connect to a Hadoop based system. We have in the HANA database calculation engines. We can perform some calculations within HANA database itself, and in the latest versions of BW, I think even in the previous version also, I would say that the strategy is to have the calculations done in the database layer itself rather than some other place. Okay, so these are all those things. Later we will go through with some other stuff, BW for HANA architecture. Again, ETL tools, third-party sources. We bring the data to HANA database. We have some data extraction mechanism, remote data extraction using the virtual data mechanism called as smart data access. We have enterprise information management, some framework to extract the data from SAP source systems, which is ODP based frameworks, operational data provisioning. And then we have the mechanism to store the data in the BW system. So all these things are again a duplication from the previous slide. Changes we have seen little bit in the previous slide. What is there and what is not there. You can go through it yourself. Same, like, what are the new features which are there in HANA which have been removed from the previous version. All those things. Biggest changes for BW on HANA. It's not delivered on NetWeaver stack. It has brought a lot of simplicity. See, more than 5 million lines of BW code have been deleted. So that much of simplicity has been brought into it, into the BW solution. Objects purpose, BW for HANA. Info objects. Mainly, why do we use info objects? To store the master data, to use it as a building block to capture the data in the source in the BW system. We have open ODS views for referring something at a virtualization layer. So we don't physically persist the data when we use the open ODS view. We have ADSOs that is used to actually to store the data into the system. We bring the data into the BW system, we duplicate the data and store in ADSOs. So this is my primary object. You would see that we will widely use info objects, ADSOs and composite providers in our actual practical life. Obviously, open ODS views can also be used for building the virtual data sets as well. We know what is info object. It is divided into two types: key figures and characteristics. Key figures store numeric data. Characteristics are stored uh, in the descriptive data. Okay. There is one more new type of info object available when we create the info object. Maybe I'm not sure whether you guys paid attention to it or not. We have extra large info object. I think now we don't have to worry about the limitation, wherein we used to have info object size 20, 40, and 60 for long description. This takes us to more than 1,000 characters. 1333. See, this is the length of the object we can store with extra large character data type. We will learn this about. I will teach you what is this when we create the info objects tomorrow again. And what we will do is we'll try to create a very simple data flow tomorrow to store data into an ADSO or CD, take it up to composite provider. That is our objective for tomorrow. So modeling in info objects, the simplicity which SAP brought is we used to have these many objects. Remember in our previous version, multi-provider, info set, virtual provider, transient provider, composite provider, all those things we don't have. We are they are replaced by only two things: composite provider and OpenODS views. In fact, BAPI provider is as such nothing. They are BAPI based, so it's not a separate object. We have only OpenODS view, composite provider, info object, and ADS. So instead of all these 10 objects, we only have 4 objects now in BW for HANA. So types of data: attribute, text, hierarchy, actual, plan, transaction data, master data, data types. So the data is classified into master data and transaction data. In transaction data, we have actual data and plan data, whereas in master data, we have attribute, text, and hierarchies. Now, when we start using the HANA Studio, we know that we have to create a project in the BW. That is our first activity. Once we start creating the project, then we create the info areas. The info areas are nothing but our folders here in BW for HANA. Once we have those folders, we then create our objects accordingly. Types of info objects. I don't want to talk about unit characteristics and time characteristics in this session. It would be too much technical, but we will go through it later. So few things I'm skipping now, reason being that we'll come across again and again in our future sessions. Okay, so this is something which I taught at the previous batch sessions students. So I want to give maybe similar example. Okay, what we will try to do is tomorrow, if possible. Okay, we'll try to create a master data. No, it's not a master data. It's again transaction data. Sorry, correct. So what we will try to do is we'll create a very simple file in Excel and try to load the data. So assume that these are the fields: customer, product, price. We load it into a ADSO and then push it to composite provider and see how the data would look like. Okay. That would be our objective. So I'll stop here at this place because we will create the object here. So today's topic we will close here and then we'll continue. Before I wrap up for the day today, any doubts? I know that I have skipped few of the slides very fast, but those were duplicate slides, so they were like repeated ones. Do you think that anything is unclear for you, or it's all good? Ken? Are you okay, Ken? Are you all good? Okay, so I take silence that as
Ian, quick question. So we will be seeing even SDI also, the smart data integration thing, using some real-time streaming from any third-party sources, part of the course.
no, only third party we will see is the flat file. So flat file and SAP. So these are the only two things we will see.
So in SDA, which sources you would be using to extract?
We will just use the flat file only. That's it. Or we correct again to. We don't need to, in fact, for SAP S4 HANA. We can connect that as well, but we'll try to just use the flat file.
Okay.
Okay. So we will cover that, and yep.
About like it has this different type of data. It's like SLT and DX and all. So even that will be seen here, or it is how it is. Yeah?
No, SLT I wouldn't recommend. It is obsolete now. It is not that strong. We have a better way of extracting the data. Either go for SDI, smart data integration, or if you don't have HANA as a database, then if you're using with some other one, we have then BODS, which is very data services, is very powerful these days. So from the solution perspective, either you connect to SDI, and obviously if the source is SAP, there is a standard extractor mechanism ODP. We use that, or if it is non-SAP, we in BW have something called as a HANA, HANA, HANA source system type. So the source system types have been simplified. We use the HANA as a source system, and we can connect through HANA source system type to any source system you want. So if you want to connect to a system which has got lots of complexities in transformations, writing the transformations, then use BODS as a source in between, use BODS as a system in between to extract the data and push it to BW. Or you don't have to go for that. If you want to keep the structure simple, if there is only limited requirement for you to extract from non-SAP source system with limited complexity, then you use source system type as a HANA source system type, and then extract the data. So we don't have to literally go for all the tools which SAP introduced in past. Even as SLT was not that efficient. Okay. Even in your real life, in practicals, when you go for a client, if someone is asking you, then don't propose that.
Okay.
We have better tools now. Obviously, 10 years ago, 8 years ago, yes, that was the only option we had when SAP introduced HANA as a database, but not anymore. Okay. So if that is the case, it's all good. We will meet tomorrow. Tomorrow, you know that for Indian time, it's 4:30. So don't be late. I'm just like, don't forget and get confused to attend late. Okay. See you folks. Enjoy the rest of the weekend and see you tomorrow.
Thank you for attending the session. I hope you all enjoyed it. Don't forget to visit our Vimeo page and follow for more upcoming videos.